Dr. Mark Williams and Lori Day-Howe are here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, y'all have been here before, I think. Yeah, both of you.
Both of you.
Yeah. At the same time, or
Together.
not together? Okay.
Lori was here a couple of weeks ago with Miss
together.
Trixie and Miss Benny.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Now we're here to talk about hospice.
Yes, Hospice of the Ozarks.
All right. Let's talk about that. I mean, we've had you on here before talk about hospice, and I don't like to get too complicated about the topic. I kind of like to keep it basic for our viewers out there. So tell people about hospice and what it does.
Today, what we want to talk about a little
Okay.
bit is just preparedness for end-of-life issues. You know, that's a discussion that we often put off or don't have, and we wanted to
Nobody's
talk.
ready for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether it's unexpected or whether it's a long illness, you know, you're not. And I've been very blessed. I still have 2 living grandparents. My grandma is 84 and my papa is 90. And
She's out there in the audience.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
she is. She came with me today, and you know, we have been fortunate. Our family is very fortunate that my grandparents have taken those steps to prepare. They've done the estate planning. They've done the power of attorney. They've, you know, and they've shared that with the family along the way on, you know, what their living will says and what their desires are, and that's such a gift to us. Not that it hasn't been hard from time to time. You know, there's times that my grandma has shared information with me that I'm like, oh, I'm not ready for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's okay.
Well, she's
Right.
ready for it,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing, right?
You know, she's made herself ready for it.
Right.
You know, there again, I don't think anyone likes to discuss their mortality, but
It's like going to the
But
doctor. No
you
one
can
wants to
make
go to
these
the
plans
doctor, right?
15 years in advance. I mean, you don't have to say, okay, Lori, I'm telling you this today because the end is near. I mean, people can make these plans
At 36 years of age,
believing
absolutely.
they'll live for another 20 years.
absolutely. And unfortunately, that's the situation that they've been in. You know, my grandparents have had 25 plus years of retirement that they've done this along the way. This isn't
Yeah.
something that they did yesterday. However, you know, we want to talk about those people who haven't been doing this over the years. And that's who we kind of want to reach. And Dr. Williams has been doing some brainstorming and giving some thought process to how we can reach those people in the community and to help them and be proactive for when they do need end-of-life care.
And
And how's that? What did you discover?
well, what we're trying to do, and what I'm trying to get everybody lined up to do is, one thing you said that nobody's ever ready for the end of life, and actually, I used to think the same thing, but a lot of people are actually already. You'll be surprised how many people come in. I've had them come in, and whether it's at their home or nursing home or the hospice house, I'll introduce myself and talk to them, and some of them say, "Doc, I'm ready. I had a lady the other day. I got my ducks in a row. I'm ready to go, Doc."
Now, whether they're in physically ill health or not, they're ready.
She was this particular individual was going to pass away in a few days,
Oh, okay.
and she was still alert, and she told me her ducks in a row, and she's ready to go when the good Lord's ready for her. And we see that a lot. People have understand their quality of life is gone, and there are some things in life worse than death. And you can talk to some of these elderly people and younger people who have endured that, and when you talk to them heart to heart, they will open up to you and tell you, you know, I'm ready. I'm ready. I've been ready, but nobody's let me be ready because we're so trained as physicians to treat
Right.
till death, and death is a defeat, and it's not. It's
Yeah.
a part of living. And so, what I'm trying to do is educate people in the community about getting prepared, preparing for the end of life, and not thinking that just because I'm 30, 25, 40, that, hey, I'll do that when I'm 65 and have a nice retirement, everything. Because sometimes people do die at 30, 35 unexpectedly,
Right.
and they got kids. And so I made my will and my estate out, and what I've done is I'm trying to take some of the estate planners that we have in the area who are attorneys like Randall Drake, Lane and Judy Struther, and some other professionals from areas that are involved with setting up your estate, and getting them involved with the panel to start educating people in the community about how to go about even going to do how to even start doing it.
Yeah.
They have to start somehow, and if we can just go out and educate them a little bit about it, we can at least get the door open for them.
Well, do you find that people think about maybe their finances when it comes to a will, but they don't think about the questions like, living wills, and what type of end of life care are you looking for? When they say, do you want extraordinary measures taken to prolong your life? What about just ordinary? I mean, some people don't want ordinary measures taken.
And that's the big thing. I have a lot of people say, well, I've got it written down on a piece of paper. I don't want to be on life support.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest thing that I see, and that's a very...
But where do they keep that piece of paper?
And that's the thing. They come in, or their spouse or their loved one panics, and they call 911. The person's on a ventilator and stuff like that, and they didn't actually want it. But the other things that are very important, and that's what I'm hoping to educate the folks on, are the ordinary measures that are still slightly extraordinary. Whether they get feeding tubes, and whether they're in a debilitated state and keep going into the hospital over and over and over. When it's still going to be the same outcome and their quality of life is deteriorated. And when I talked to family members about this, many of them said, I wish I would have known about this 2 years ago, because she's pretty much been in that state for 2 years, and I've had to watch him or her do this for 2 years. And it's been hard. So to educate them that, look, when this occurs, have a plan, have something in order. Don't just make it, I don't want to be on life support. It's all those other fine little things, that happen. And again, that's kind of too hard to go into detail on some of these, the time we have, but we're trying to educate people about that.
So is there a physical checklist that people can go by, or do you...
Yes, there is. When I did my state, and actually there's several things like dignity clauses, but when I did my will, it's actually a piece of paper that they go through. Do you want to be on life support? But then it goes into do you want IV antibiotics? Right. Do you want IV antibiotics? Do you want long-term nursing home care? Do you want
now, do you
IV
need
hydration?
A doctor to help explain that to you. I mean, you as a physician have a big,
And
like if I came in and said, "Gee, Mark, what do you mean? Do I want IV antibiotics? What is that a big deal?" Because I would want to know, is that a big deal?
First of all, me having been in private practice for a long time, before I started doing this, doctors are extremely busy. Again, we are trained to treat and help, and sometimes I did not get the education in residency to how to talk to people about end of life, because we're geared to save. Okay.
Yeah, you're geared not to let them get there.
And so I want to be that liaison between the physician and Hospice of the Ozarks to be able to help spend the time that's needed to explain this, because the physicians are extremely busy, and it does take quite a bit of time to do it the right way without hurting someone's feeling and being very tactful. It takes time.
And you don't want to make those decisions on like, oh, no.
In the crisis, and that's the thing, is being proactive. You're able to research that, whether you know what that means. If you don't understand what IV antibiotic means, to be proactive and to look at that before you are in that before you're in that state, or before your family members having to make that decision on your behalf, is so important.
The families that do very well are the ones that came in and they don't have to make the decision. They just honor their loved one's wishes. As much as I hate to let mom or dad go, they would have wanted this. They've said it over and over. My dad, he says over and over, if I can't fish and perform bodily functions, and I'll put it that way, let him go. And so at least I know what his expectations are. Right.
Before we run out of time, we do have about 1 minute remaining. What can people do that are watching this? What can they do now? Can they get guidance from the hospice house? Or is there further information that they can get a hold of?
First of all, I'll say there's Hospice of the Ozarks, and we have a hospice house, and we have a home program as well. And we go to the nursing homes, the home, wherever the person calls home. I would suggest, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but call 870-508-1771, and that will get your foot. Is that a good one?
It is. That's the main number to the hospice.
I think that's it.
Yeah. So someone doesn't have to be sick right now. But if they have a question, you guys would be a first line of defense. They could call you.
Yeah.
Right.
We are starting that process.
Okay.
That's what that's what Dr. Williams has thought, and we would like to go in that direction. And There's many attorneys in this town that are able to do that service. And
if there's any other attorneys that are listening to this and watching this, if they want to participate, I mean, I don't know who all has interest in estate planning. I mean, I don't want to be, do all this bias stuff, but whoever wants to help out, we'd be glad to have your help. Please keep in mind too is don't wait until the last day of life to get us involved. We want to get involved with patients earlier. I'm seeing I'm seeing that getting better, but so many people waiting to the last minute to decide these things. But if we could get involved earlier with a patient, they will do so much better. They'll have a much more tolerable experience with the end of life.
Much more peaceful.
And then we're able, if we could get some of these things taken care of and looked at in advance, then we can focus more on when a patient or a family member does have to come on hospice care and is a patient of hospice at the Ozarks. We can focus on the keeping the patient comfortable, the family spending quality time with them, and we don't have to worry about all the logistics. But we can do that if we need to also.
Because you will be surprised how many 80, 90-year-olds come in that don't have a funeral arrangement, don't have any of that stuff. Then the family has to spend the time, instead of mourning and loving and holding hands, doing all the funeral arrangements. That's not the time to be doing this.